Hello and welcome to this edition of Consciousness Raising Online. I'm hoping that the air conditioning is not too loud and overtaking us because it is very, very hot here. As some would say, it's hot as hell. I'm going to jump right into this. I'm not going to be long today, but I had to do this. As I know you saw what I did. It's Hamil-time. This is being done the weekend of 4th of July, 2020. So just to give you context, no matter when you're seeing this and listening to this, you understand. Disney chose to stream this musical called Hamilton on the 4th of July weekend. And I have to speak about it because I've been speaking about Hamilton since it was on Broadway, since it first started. And there's no reason to stop now. But see, I'm troubled. No, I'm not troubled. I'm bothered by not just Hamilton, but its whole concept. And just to bring you up to speed if you're not hip, Hamilton is a musical that did huge on Broadway. In fact, it became the first Broadway musical to have tickets of over $1,000. Yeah, they made big bucks on it. Now Disney's planning to make some bigger bucks by streaming it. And it tells a story of one of the so-called American founding fathers named Alexander Hamilton. Now, it's inspired by a biography that came out in 2004. But there's several things about the musical. One is the lyrics and dialogue is largely hip-hop or rap, and a lot of the music is like R&B based and pop and soul, and they got some traditional show tunes. But the other big part of Hamilton the musical is that it casts non-white actors as the founding fathers and many of the other characters, white characters. Okay? Now the show is written and put up by the person you see here. Name is Manuel. He's Puerto Rican. And in this particular shot, he's shown with the actress who plays Hamilton's wife. Her name was Elizabeth Schuyler Hamilton. And I think she's Korean. I'm not sure. She's Asian. Of which, of course, Elizabeth Schuyler Hamilton was not Asian. So I have a problem with the idea that this was made to be so huge, playing on the fact that it has, quote, non-white actors playing white people. And here's a particular point, is that these are based on real people. It's not like black actors or brown actors or whatever, or non-white actors are playing fictional characters who were written as white characters. They're white people who really existed. Okay? And so the musical is supposedly trying to tell a story about how the United States of America was founded by these powerful and, ambitious revolutionaries. My first problem with it, and you'll see it more as I go along, is this. See, you got a musical where, in fact, so many black people are applauding this musical and loving it to death, not understanding that it's giving permission to future historical revisionism. And what does that mean? It means that there are going to be people who are going to revise history, and it's not going to be in our favor. It means that you're going to see plays and musicals and stories and whoever else where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela, Sojourner Truth, Medgar Evers, Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, Michelle Obama, George Washington Carver, Michael Jordan, Ossie Davis, Ruby Dee, Angela Davis, Fred Hampton. I could go on, but I want you to understand what's being given permission when you applaud Hamilton is that you're giving permission for all of those people I just named and more to be played by white people. And for the producers of such shows, spectacles, etc., to have these white people playing black people and having them speak however they want them to speak. And when you try to raise an objection to that, they're going to say, hey, you didn't have a problem when we had non-white people speaking rap to the founding fathers, and they were white. You didn't have a problem with that. So if you didn't have a problem with that, you can't have a problem with this. You follow me? And for those who might think that that has not occurred already, there was a play back a couple of years ago, I think it was 2015, where the director, who I believe might have been a Negro, cast a black actor and a white actor to play Martin Luther King. They played him, whatever kind of way it was set up. But he did this saying he wanted to see how this would play out, to hear a white person playing Martin Luther King, saying Martin Luther King's words, how that would sound. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? You see, that's historical revisionism, and it's dangerous because we already have a problem with our children, and for many of us, we grew up with historical revisionism. We grew up watching movies like Cleopatra, the Ten Commandments, for an example. Now that we're grown and we're much more aware and conscious, we know now that virtually everybody in that Bible were black. But we grew up believing that everybody in the Bible was white. Moses and Jesus and you name them. Okay? We saw movie after movie with people who were not white being played by white people. And in some cases they were played in character, meaning if they had to put a little coloring on them, they did that. But in many cases they didn't do that, they just played them as white people. And you see the effect it's had on us. Think about it like this. How many of us who are older grew up in a house where either in our house or our grandparents' house where there was a famous picture of white Jesus in that house? And those parents or grandparents believed that Jesus was white. How many of us ever went to a church, a black church, where they had black Jesus? I mean, a white Jesus. Okay? And here's the cold part. These same black people, if you were to have told them that, hey, look, if you go to Europe, Poland, Germany, France, all these different countries in Europe, you will find paintings of a black Madonna and Child, meaning black Mary and Jesus, all over Europe. And every year, these white people, these Europeans, would have these treks, they called them, to the shrine of the Black Madonna. They would walk to the shrine of the Black Madonna and worship there. I never forget, there was a pope a few years back. He would go back home to, I think, to Poland and do that walk, that trek with fellow Catholics to the shrine of the Black Madonna. But you come here to the United States, and the only place you find a shrine to the Black Madonna is in black communities, because in the white communities there ain't no Black Madonnas. So my point is this. We already have had to start in the 60s, really, when we started getting serious about it, straightening out these histories that were incorrect. Okay? Now they're being slicker because they're getting us, especially through our children, to co-sign the idea that it doesn't matter who plays the parts. It's okay to have somebody non-white playing the parts of real live, real existing white people. And so it'll be okay when we have non-blacks playing black people. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. Okay? Let me show you how deep it is. Because I asked this question on social media. I said, with these people, all these non-whites playing white people in Hamilton, does that mean that white people were playing the slaves? And I heard from different black people who went to see the show. They were very quick to tell me, well, no, they don't have white people playing the slaves. They don't have hardly anything in the show about slavery, because it's not about slavery, it's about Hamilton. I said, well, excuse me. One of my young people I've known since he was just out of high school, he said, Harold, I don't know why you're being like this about this. It was entertainment. And slavery was mentioned. I said, wow. I'm going to give you an example of why this is so dangerous. This is a graphic of, it was Felipe Sue. She plays Elizabeth Schuyler Hamilton. Okay? Hamilton's wife. Now you should understand, in the musical, they have the three Schuyler sisters in this musical, and here's graphics of the three sisters playing, or the three actresses playing the three sisters. And what's interesting, in fact, the character that you see in the center, she plays the oldest, one of the sisters. I think it's Angelica, who was in love with Hamilton, but she more or less acquiesced to her sister Elizabeth to be Hamilton's wife. Now, there's a lot of skullduggery and stuff going on, but here's the deep thing. Because it's, quote, entertainment, then some people consider it okay to completely change the truth about the Schuyler sisters and what the family of the Schuylers. And here's what you need to know. Philip J. Schuyler, their father, was a Revolutionary War general. He was a U.S. senator and a businessman, much beloved and respected by his community. But he was also a prominent slave owner. See, you can't ignore stuff like this. The sisters all traded in slaves themselves. And that's how come Hamilton had slaves. In fact, in recent weeks, I believe in Albany, New York, or Albany somewhere, the mayor of Albany, Kathy Sheehan, ordered the removal of Philip Schuyler, the general, his statue, from in front of Albany City Hall. Because now they say, oh, we didn't know he was a slave owner. Yeah, a lot of them didn't know that, or claim they didn't know it. There's people that claim they didn't know Washington, Jefferson, and most of the founding fathers all had slaves. They were slave traders and slave owners. So by having an Asian, a black woman, and I don't know what the other one is, playing these sisters, it completely changes the energy. You follow me? It changes the energy about it. And if slavery is just mentioned, it removes the energy of us. Okay? Here's another example. This is the brother in the center. His name is David Davis. I believe he might be an entertainer of some sort, maybe a rapper or something. Anyway, in the musical Hamilton, he plays Thomas Jefferson. Yeah. Now, you know, of course, Thomas Jefferson was a slave owner. And even deeper when it comes to Jefferson, he was the one who had a particular enslaved African child named Sally Hemings, who was his wife's half-sister because his wife's father raped Sally Hemings' mother and impregnated her, and she was born, her daughter was born, and that was Sally Hemings. She came along with the wife when Jefferson married his wife. And he kept her from the time she was a child and apparently started sex trafficking her, raping her from the time she was 12 years plus, between 12 and 14, and he kept her his whole life, her whole life. I think he fathered, what, six children with Sally Hemings? And history books love to say she was his mistress. And I hate that term when it's used to describe a child, a enslaved child, who, even if she could have given permission, she didn't have no position to give permission. She was a slave. And by calling her a mistress, it takes away from the fact that she was a slave and he raped her continuously. Anyway, I hate when I see that. By the way, here's what Jefferson looked like. That's supposed to be a better representation of Jefferson than the ones you'll see most of the time represented. Now, in the musical, there's a brother playing George Washington. His name is Chris Jackson. He plays George Washington. You see why this can be very confusing to a child, that they take to see it or sees it at home on a stream, and they don't know the true histories of things, and so they're getting this information like this. There's, in the musical, George Washington, who's obviously black, and there's Hamilton, who you learn in watching this and learning about it that he's not being played by a white man. And so it distorts history, and you see the other black people around in the background and stuff. Where are the slaves? Well, slavery was just a minor thing, apparently, just a minor thing. It wasn't major. Because, look, George Washington is black. 4th of July, 1776. What were black people doing? Well, a lot of them were enslaved, so they were picking cotton and tobacco and sugar cane and all kinds of stuff. And the ones that were so-called free were hiding out and trying not to get caught up and sold down the river and trying to help escape and slaves get away. Wasn't no joyous thing of having big fun. By the way, here's a more truthful representation of George Washington. George Washington. Now you look at that. Look at that. Doesn't he look like he's a slave owner? See, this is taken from a more realistic representation of George Washington. It don't look like the kindly George Washington we always see. This dude looks like he's an evil piece of crap. Now, there are some who say, well, this is not right to go back and talk bad about these founders of America, these great men, because what is to be gained? Well, here's the reality. This country was founded on lies. It was founded on the rape of the land, the theft of the land from the native peoples. It was founded upon the theft of people from Africa who were brought here and enslaved. And you notice I didn't say they took slaves from Africa. For those that don't understand that, understand they didn't take slaves out of Africa. They took people out of Africa and enslaved them in Brazil, the Caribbean, and what became the United States. And so, by creating all these myths and lies, when I was a kid, we got taught that George Washington could not tell a lie. He chopped down the cherry tree and he told his father the truth, and his father said, "That's a good boy." He does some idiocy. Thomas Jefferson, we were told, was such a great man. Bet if you asked Sally Hemings that, she wouldn't co-sign that. Or any of the other 300 slaves that he owned in his lifetime. Or George Washington or Jefferson or Hamilton even. Now they talk about how Hamilton later on became something of an abolitionist. But the problem was he still had slaves. He didn't give back the wealth that he got from those slaves' labor. He didn't free them and give them the money he made off of them, did he? No. None of them did. So my beef with this, and it extends to Disney, because I consider Disney, the corporation, the company, I consider Disney to be the biggest propaganda machine and brainwasher of children in the history of the world. You know, I've never been to Disneyland, Disney World, nothing else Disney. And I raised my son, reared my son with the understanding that I would never take him. Walt Disney was a racist, and the corporation has, over the years, like I say, it's been one of the biggest propaganda machines and brainwashers of young people and children in the history of the world. And I will not back up off that, because that's what it is. Why do I say that? Because if you go back even from the beginnings of Disney and the cartoons and the animated films and all of that, and their movies, they've been pushing propaganda and lies for years. You know, I did a presentation years back about Lion King. And because of doing the research, I found that the song actually was written by an African in South Africa many years ago, and then one group of white people after another stole it and reshaped it and all of that and gave it to us. And one of the things that I never forget is when I realized that one of the big lies in the song, when it had lyrics which weren't there in the original song, it says, "In the jungle, the mighty jungle, a lion sleeps tonight." And I, like many of us, grew up believing that lions sleep in the jungle. And that was part of our mental picture of Africa, a jungle. But in reality, lions don't sleep in the jungle. You go right now and look, Google it, do whatever you want, and look up pictures of lions, and you will see that they live in savannas. In savannas, look it up. The main jungles. Okay? Because that's part of the propaganda. They made the lion the king of the jungle. It's a lie. And they did it knowing it was a lie. You follow me? So, just consider it my own particular beef with the Disney propaganda machine. And Hamilton is just the latest of them. They did Madagascar. You know what my beef is with Madagascar? Beautiful work, but they don't show no people. Yeah, go watch Madagascar. Ask your kids. They've all seen it. Ain't no people in there. It has animals talking like people and acting like people, but there's no people there. And if you were a child and you don't know any better and you don't learn any different, you could grow up believing that Madagascar is this place that's beautiful, but ain't got no people there. Just animals that act like people. And they definitely ain't got no black people there. And where is it? It's off the coast of Africa? What? That's what I'm talking about. It shapes people's minds, and they grow up. Some of them manage to break through and get the truth. When they get the facts, they can then discern the truth. Some never do. By the way, the graphic that you've been looking at for a little while, his name is Andrew Jackson. Now ask yourself, what bill is Andrew Jackson on? Yeah, you're going to go look in your wallet to see what bill is Andrew Jackson on. Yeah, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, there was a movement on to put Harriet Tubman on that bill and take this guy off, because he was a dastardly guy. Look him up, Andrew Jackson. I believe he was the 7th president of the United States. But the movement to take him off and put Harriet Tubman on the bill, the U.S. currency, that came to a screeching halt when the president stole into office. And so you're forced to use that bill, that U.S. currency, with that killer on there. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to close out with that because that's all I really wanted to say. I wanted to get that out about Hamilton. It's Hamil-time. You saw what I did there, right? But to me, it's part of the battle we have to continue to fight, to uncover the facts about his stories. His stories are full of lies. And it holds us back because it limits our children and it has limited us from knowing who we really are and what our capabilities are. You see, you can't do what you can't see. You follow me? That's why this is so important. You can't do what you can't see. And now some would say, well, that's all the more reason why we should have Hamilton's and plays and musicals where non-white people play the roles of white people. No. We need to do stories and plays and musicals about the truth with black people doing what we actually have done. Because here's what happens. It happened on soap operas in America. For a long time, they didn't have no black people on soap operas. And then when they started having black people on soap operas, the deal was that they had to come on those shows and show that they could be just as evil, adulterous, nasty, filthy-minded, murderous thieves as white people. And over generations, we began to mimic that, to show we could be just as evil and sick and nasty and filthy and murderous and adulterous as the people we see on TV. If you imitate them, you'll become them. And then you'll never have or at least not for many more generations, will you be able to erect a generation of strong, beautiful black people who want freedom for themselves and want to create a better world. Because what happens is that we just want to imitate them and recreate this evilness we got now. I'm gone. As always, I say, no justice, no peace, no love. KNOW.